my God, stop hitting him!
We, the jury, find the defendant Christopher Shane Burbank not guilty of the crime of murder in the second degree as charged.
The weight of this moment is one that's been carried for a very long time.
We, the jury, find the defendant Matthew J. Collins not guilty of the crime of murder in the second degree as charged.
For the officers, I mean, it's just a huge, huge sigh of relief.
We, the jury, find the defendant Timothy Eugene Rankine not guilty of the crime of manslaughter in the first degree.
We're just very thankful to the jury and for justice.
This is a time in Tacoma, a sad time, a time where justice has vanished.
And it just shows the worth of a black life.
We wanted to believe that the system worked.
Everybody say justice! Justice! For Manny! For Manny! Justice! Justice! For Manny! For Manny!
Find the defendant Timothy Eugene Rankine not guilty of the lesser included crime of manslaughter in the second degree. Each of these verdict forms has been signed by the presiding juror and dated today, December 20, 2023.
Tense moments inside a Tacoma courtroom today as not guilty verdicts were read for all three officers who were on trial for the death of Manuel Ellis. Ellis died in police custody back in 2020. But the jury concluded there was not enough evidence to prove the three officers were responsible for his death. After the verdict, members of the Tacoma community gathered to protest that ruling. Thank you for joining us at 9 o'clock. I'm Steve Solis.
I'm Jessica Janner Castro. We have plenty of reaction and a full breakdown of today's verdict. But before we get to that, let's recap what the officers were acquitted for in this trial. Officer Christopher Burbank was found not guilty of second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. Officer Matthew Collins was also found not guilty of second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. And Officer Timothy Rankin was found not guilty of first-degree manslaughter.
King 5 is team coverage on today's ruling. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll have reaction from the Tacoma community and city leaders. But we begin with King 5's Lionel Donovan, who's been covering this trial since it began more than 2 months ago. He has a full recap on how we got here.
Just before 2 p.m. today, the court announced that the jury had reached a verdict, and Tacoma finally learned if 3 police officers would be held responsible for the death of Manuel Ellis. The tension was thick in the courtroom as supporters of both the Ellis family and the police officers gathered to hear the jury's final decision.
Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
All 3 officers cleared of any wrongdoing. Ellis's family walked out of the courthouse in disappointment, and community supporters broke down in tears as the news of the verdict spread. Meanwhile, you could see the complete relief from the defendants and their legal team, who spoke with jurors following the verdict. Jurors told them they voted to acquit in part because they didn't think eyewitnesses were believable.
They had a lot of questions on a lot of different areas as far as reasonable doubt on cause of death, on the credibility of the civilian witnesses primarily, and so that's what it boiled down to.
Ellis died while in police custody back in March of 2020, and 3 officers were charged after video of the incident emerged that appeared to counter the police's official account of the arrest. During the trial, the prosecution argued the officers used excessive force and they failed to follow their training. Meanwhile, the defense claimed that Ellis's death was the result of drug use and poor health. On Wednesday, jurors voiced concerns that they may not be able to come to a final decision. But the judge advised them to keep trying, which eventually led to the verdict.
To some extent, it shows a certain amount of courage, too, because one side or the other was going to be unhappy with them, and they knew that. So they made the decision that they made, and I don't have any opinion about the merits of that, but I do have an opinion that they did a good job, and they tried hard to get it right.
The Ellis family's attorney says acquittal does not equal innocence, and the Ellis family will be moving forward with its civil suit against the Tacoma Police Department. The attorney went on to say that information that was not allowed in the criminal trial, such as problems the officers had earlier in their careers before their fatal encounter with Ellis, will be brought up during the civil suit. In Tacoma, Lionel Donovan, King 5 News.
Let's go now to King 5's Madison Wade, who has been at a rally with supporters for the Emanuel-Ellis family. They've been protesting tonight, at one point marched towards a nearby Tacoma police precinct. Madison joining us live in Tacoma. And Madison, what's the latest there?
Jessica, the mural behind me says "Justice for Manny," and many people we spoke with today believe that justice was not served. They are hurting, they are frustrated, they are angry over the not guilty verdict, and from the courthouse, they came here to this mural to hold a rally, to also protest and to march.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
A group of about 100 people gathered at 11th and Martin Luther King Jr. Way and blocked off the intersection. They held signs, protested over loudspeakers, and called on the community for change. From the intersection, they marched to the Justice for Manny mural, where they laid down flowers and candles, and more speeches took place. From the mural, the group then marched down Martin Luther King Jr. Way to a nearby Tacoma police precinct, where they held a moment of silence for 6 minutes. In memory of Emanuel-Ellis. We spoke with multiple people here in solidarity, including city leaders.
Being out here with all these people, what does it feel like right now?
It feels great. It feels like the community cares, and it's getting people more back out here to understand why we're out here.
There's some hurt, there's some anger, there's a lot of kind of worry about, the work that's to come, because we have a lot of work to do.
Jamaica Scott has been with the Ellis family throughout the trial, and especially today when the verdict came through. She says it is shocking and hurtful, and right now the family is focused on healing. We also spoke with the family attorney, James Bible. He spoke in detail with us about the next steps he has for the Emanuel-Ellis family. He told us that he's possibly pursuing litigation in the civil rights sector. We'll have much more of his interview coming up tonight at 11 on King 5. In Tacoma, I'm Madison Wade, King 5 News. We want to get things over to Julie Calhoun, who's also been talking to our city leaders here in Tacoma. She has more from a news conference held today, Julie.
Mayor Victoria Woodard says this is a difficult time in Tacoma's history, but will use it to bring change. This as she, along with the community, are processing the many emotions the verdict brings. As the community grapples with a not guilty verdict for 3 Tacoma officers in the death of Emanuel-Ellis, its mayor does too.
His death creates a hole that cannot and will not be filled. And the waves of grief have impacted our entire community. But we know the Ellis family hurts the most.
Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodard addressed the Ellis family directly just 2 hours after the verdict came down.
We are hoping for strength and comfort as you navigate through this very challenging time.
She also addressed the community and the weight of waiting nearly 4 years for a conclusion.
I want to acknowledge the anger, the distrust, the doubt, the fear, the hurt, and the exhaustion that we as Black people have experienced as a result of the history of policing in this country.
But alongside Tacoma's police chief and several other city leaders, Woodard says it doesn't lessen the commitment to change.
These are not just words. This commitment is real, and it has been and will continue to be backed by action.
In a statement, Governor Jay Inslee says we can respect our judicial system without diminishing the fact our society has more to do. Today's outcome will no doubt spark relief for some and immense pain for others. And attorney Bob Ferguson, whose office prosecuted the case, thanked his team for their extraordinary work and dedication.
We will not,
but all of them acknowledge,
forget the life
the Ellis family's loss
of Emanuel-Ellis.
The governor did say this case led to the creation of the Office of Independent Investigation, which is key for accountability. So while the criminal element is over for the 3 officers today, that does not change the Tacoma Police Department's independent investigation. That investigation is expected to wrap up in 24 hours, and then Police Chief Avery Moore will be the one that will ultimately make the disciplinary decision for those officers, which could mean termination. That decision will be made within 14 days. For now, live in Tacoma, Julie Calhoun, King 5 News.
Julie, thank you. And emotions are running high. We asked our legal experts what they would tell people who are struggling with the verdict.
When we first heard about this case, all we heard was this guy's out at night, ends up in police custody, and he dies. And we also saw some video footage that did not look good for the officers. What we learned in the course of the trial, though, was that the videos didn't start, and this is usually the case because no one starts shooting their video till the fight's
Didn't
already
tell the
on.
whole story.
Exactly. So we never get the full story, or we often don't get the full story from the video. But the first evidence, as it were, that we heard about this case did not look good for the officers. But that's why we have trials, to really hash it through and get the whole story and not just part of the story.